Good afternoon for those who have joined us early. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We might just give it a minute or two and get going shortly. Hey, right on time. So with that, I might kick us off. A very warm welcome to everyone on the call today. I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time to join us on our webinar from EAP to Holistic Wellbeing. My name is Julia Bigeski, and I'll be your host and facilitator today. A quick intro of myself. I'm part of Team Sonder here, and I'm lucky enough to be on the squad that supports new customers into the Sonder offering and making sure that you are getting the most value out of the Sonder service and having a great time along the way. Now, before we get stuck in, what I hope you get out of today is a real glimpse into an organization that has reimagined their employee wellbeing approach and learn how they've been able to drive ongoing engagement and value back into the business. Please enjoy the discussion. Feel free to use the chat either throughout or towards the end, where we'll have some time to dive into those. Now, we have a delightful guest here with us today that I'll just take a quick minute to introduce before we get going. A quick overview of Charter Hall, firstly. Charter Hall is one of our wonderful customers, and they are one of Australia's leading fully integrated property investment funds and management groups with about 600 employees across the country. And with that, we have the wonderful Ben Cividin from Charter Hall who joins us today, who I personally had the pleasure of working directly with when Charter Hall was embedding and exploring Sonder. So a real quick intro to Ben. He's the people manager over there at Charter Hall, and Ben's responsible for partnering with the exec to deliver on their people strategy, focusing on talent attraction, engagement, but importantly, and why we're here today, employee wellbeing. So a big warm welcome to you, Ben.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Awesome. Cool. Well, with that, everyone, we might dive in. So with the topic of today, rethinking wellbeing, maybe a good place to start then is, Ben, if you could share a little bit about the journey about Charter Hall and your perspective and what led you to rethink wellbeing.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. So, I mean, our journey, I mean, probably the best place to start is back at the start of 2022. So we'd been emerging out of I guess, the COVID lockdowns, and we're back to some sense of normality out of that period of time. And as a business, what we'd really recognized is that, employee wellbeing had become of paramount importance, I guess, to us as a business, not just from a retention mechanism and also for the right thing to do, but employees are actually really vocal about that being important to them, and how their place of work could be a real source of well-being. And we'd had some great success, I guess, in terms of supporting our teams through the COVID period, through lockdown, when we were dispersed. Now that we were back together, and we're very much a business that values in-person interaction, I think our team had really felt that now that we were back in person, it was an opportunity for us to be really proactive in the wellbeing space, and how could we actually add to what we're doing there. So we started to research, what were some ways that we could look at that holistic wellbeing piece? How could we actually add it into our EVP, in addition to some of our more, traditional benefit mechanisms? And that's where we started to go on the journey with Sonder, and we got the introduction to the Sonder platform. And what we were really hoping to achieve was to move from, we obviously have our traditional sort of EAP service, which I think is the sort of fundamental or foundational kind of support that most businesses have in place. We really wanted to elevate beyond that, and we wanted to sort of see where we could take wellbeing and really add to that as part of our experience, and look at a more proactive wellbeing provider. So we started our conversations with Sonder and sort of went on the journey from there. And what we really liked was that it's sort of really nicely aligned to that wellbeing strategy. It wasn't just about providing support for distressed people. That's obviously of importance, and you need to have those sorts of supports in place. But we really wanted to look at how we could appeal and provide benefit to all of our employees, even those that are in a good space, how we could take them to a great space and really elevate their well-being, and partner with a specialist in that space, because I think it's also important to recognize when you don't have all the answers in-house, you need to also partner with those really strong partners externally. So that's where the journey started with Sonder, and it's been very, very successful for us since there. And we get great feedback from our team to date, and it's something that I think we've expanded on. Even today, we continue to expand on the relationship. So that ongoing proactive wellbeing has been really essential for us, and that was probably the key thing that we were looking to achieve and focus on as we were going through the journey.
Yeah, thanks so much for taking us through that, Ben. You mentioned in that the need or the desire to look at something a bit more preventative, and there's absolutely a place and various things out there for when we are in crisis mode. But maybe that leads me to my next point around, how would you say we've been different from a service to you?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I would touch on. I mean, certainly the proactive wellbeing piece has been key. And what I mean by that is the platforms enabled our team, if they're responding to a certain situation, there's great support for that. But equally, if they're looking to educate themselves, or there's just a topic of interest that they would like to understand more about, whether it be financial wellbeing as an example, or mental health, or physical wellbeing, there's a whole range of sort of resources and support that they can go and then access themselves. One of our philosophies is, in terms of our benefit offerings, is personalization, and that really nicely aligned to what Sonder offers. It allows our team to go and utilize the service how they want to. And that can be really different for a whole range of different people. We've got a lot of people in our team love to sit and read content and go through the resources that are there. Others like to use chat functionality, and even the content type, like all of our team like to look at different stuff. So we really liked it from that perspective, that it offered that level of personalization. And then once it's sort of curated a little bit more, you get served the stuff that you're really interested in, and you can customize it to your own sort of liking. So our team really responded to that. So we really like that. And I think probably the other thing, as opposed to a traditional EAP, most, in my current organization, also in previous organizations, most people are only aware of an EAP if they're in a moment of crisis. Whereas we've really found with, integrating Sonder into our offering, we've got people proactively talking about their well-being and taking great steps to sort of be strong in that space, which otherwise they wouldn't have done. Those conversations wouldn't have really started because they weren't in a moment of distress. So there's not a need for them to inquire about an EAP. But equally, they're not proactively then going, well, how can I, learn more about my physical well-being or learn more about financial well-being? So that's enabled us to unlock a lot more engagement in well-being as a strategy for us by reaching those people that otherwise we probably wouldn't have had conversations with them about.
Yeah, that's super cool to hear, Ben. Something we talk about a lot, as you would know, is we believe here at Sonder in a lot of things, but one is we believe in care at a time, on your terms, at a time that suits you. And I heard recently from another customer, the way they describe a platform like Sonder is that there's just something for everyone. So coming back to your point on personalization, thank you. So where I want to take us next then is, I suppose for our audience today, I want them to get a bit of an idea around, getting to that launch point of having this service available to your people. How would you describe the effort and what that journey looked like?
Yeah, look, I mean, honestly, it was easy for us because firstly, we had to have dedicated sort of support in terms of getting it up and running, which was greatly appreciated. But I think for us, it was the real key was it really well aligned to what our strategy was. And so given that we had that nice strategic alignment, it made sense and it was easy for us to facilitate it in the business. So in terms of, leadership endorsement on what we were looking to do and the investment we were looking to make, that's often can be a real challenge. So having an offering that really nicely aligned to our wellbeing strategy at the first point just from an internal perspective was really key. But then, working with the team, and I can say this genuinely, like that was aligned with what we were looking to achieve, helped facilitate that onboarding and that smooth sort of launch, because it felt like we were really in lockstep on, the product was there and the product sort of served what we wanted to do, but we had that common goal of what we were looking to achieve from a proactive wellbeing sense. And I think when you've got that, it then enables it to really launch smoothly. And I think what we did, like I touched on customization before for our employees, but what was really useful was we were able to sort of customize what sort of features we wanted to highlight and what content types we wanted to highlight early on, that aligned to some of the themes that we were trying to drive in our business. And the Sonder team were able to really help us in terms of drawing out those features early on in terms of the product launch. And we really appreciated that, because I think when you're launching something new, there's always that risk that it can look like it's an off-the-shelf offering, and it gets launched and then it sort of just sits there. Whereas we felt that it was really about understanding what we were trying to achieve as Charter Hall. How could the platform best service that, and how could we best highlight that to then make it really successful for our team? So when we launched, whilst it was about awareness of Sonder as a platform, it actually felt really nicely aligned to some of the stuff that we had done strategically within Charter Hall leading up to that point. So for our team, they're looking at it not as just a product launch or something external coming in. They understood that it really nicely aligned to what we had been working on in terms of our wellbeing strategy over the 6 months leading up to it. So that partnership was obviously really important. And I think that, enabling us to use the great elements of Sonder, but also have it really nicely integrated into the great elements of what we're trying to achieve at Charter Hall. It felt like a genuine partnership.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think sharing with our audience today, hopefully this is okay, but I think one of the things Charter Hall did really well, and that I'd suggest as one of the pro tips is, I think you thought very deeply around your why, and really sharing that and making that part of the employee value prop, and getting the stakeholders to support that, which made your launch and positioning, I think, super cool.
And I think that's important when you look at something like wellbeing now. Is there's obviously an element to it that it is the right thing to do, and we all want to make sure that we're providing an environment for our teams that is going to assist them with their wellbeing. But from a strategic perspective, it's become such a huge part of that EVP. You have to have a holistic EVP. It's not just around your traditional benefits and REM and things like that, which obviously are important. You need to be making sure that you're nailing that and you're competitive. But increasingly what we're finding is that, talent will move if they don't feel like the whole of offering is aligned to what they want. And I think we've got a reasonably young workforce. Our emerging workforce is, that 35 and under age cohort. And I think increasingly, particularly in that cohort, they're really wanting to understand, is the organization I'm joining got my best interests at heart? Like, they're not only are they going to give me the career stuff, but are they actually going to create an environment where I can thrive and do my best work? And that's where we really felt that this was a strong sort of link for us in terms of bringing that wellbeing aspect to life, because I actually think it is becoming a really, really key element of the EVP. And if you're not, proactive and strong in this space, it really does, leave a gap there. Compared to where it's previously been, where I think, an EAP service, as I said before, was for a small cohort of people. Now it's very much about proactive wellbeing and how can that add to your overall offering to talent.
Yeah, awesome. Couldn't agree more. Love to hear it. So Ben, we've shared a little bit about the why and the initial experience in coming on board. I suppose I'd love for you to share with us today, what do you think has led to an ongoing engagement with a platform like Sonder?
There's a couple of things, and there's a range of things. I've just spoken about, I guess, the broad strategic alignment, which is really key, and there's a few points to touch on there. But it's also then down into like the granular of the actual platform. Like, one of the simple things that our team love are the daily push notifications and updates. Even if it's something as simple as a traffic alert, or a disruption in the area that they work in. They love that, and that keeps that constant engagement. And that really speaks to a really practical example of the proactive piece. It's a really easy, simple functionality that they can get delivered to their mobile, and it's actually useful for them at that moment in their day. And we've had more anecdotal comments about that as a feature than even we probably anticipated. And I think that the element that we really like with that is so our workforce is reasonably dispersed. So we have, a large number of our employees are here in our Sydney HQ. So we're in the CBD, Martin Place. But equally, we have a lot of people at our retail assets and out in our regional centres, and they get relevant updates to where they are based. And I think that that's really helped us provide us that holistic kind of support, because they don't feel like it's just a HQ centered offering, but as I said, it gives them really relevant in the moment kind of useful information that they can use day to day. So something simple as that really has helped embed it as an offering. It's one where people continually are reminded, oh, it's there, it's a service I can use, and there's some great features that can really help me out. But then equally, we've continued to have some really great support from the team. Like we've had some instances where we've needed some higher touch care to respond to some challenges we've had in the business, again, in some of our assets or what have you. And we've been able to partner with the team to come up with some dedicated support using the platform. So those sorts of things are really beneficial, because it reminds our team that they've got a great level of support there. It's not something that they only have to use when we bring them into the conversation. It is also something proactive that we can help, drive out to them day to day. So I think those sort of elements have really helped to embed it, because it's if it just sat there and you didn't have that proactive element to it, you could run that risk of it's similar to an EAP where people only respond when they actually need it. But it's so proactive, and it's got such breadth of content that it really speaks to anyone at any point in time, that they can utilize the platform. So that's really helped embed it. And then I guess coming back to the strategic stuff that we've spoken about, it's really delivered on that proactive wellbeing piece. So what we set out when we launched the offering to our team is certainly how it's then being utilized. So that always helps. And then I guess, again, also another quick point is just operationally, when we have new people come into the business, the onboarding journey is really seamless and easy for new members and new team members to join. So as part of our onboarding program now, they're prompted to join Sonder. They're given a really quick, easy oversight of why we partner with Sonder, what's the link to our wellbeing strategy, and it's a really seamless and easy onboarding experience for them. So light touch for me as a user. I don't have to get involved in terms of that onboarding piece, which is great, because the team has set up a really great workflow. But equally, we know as part of onboarding, we know how important a good onboarding is in terms of retaining talent. We can offer that benefit to them straight away from day one, and they're on board and they can use it. And so that's really helpful for us to really get all of our new starters on board and into the platform really seamlessly as well. So we sort of capture everyone, and it operates really smoothly for us. So that's helped to embed it across the business.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to look quite different for different organizations, as we know. And I think what Charter Hall have done really well is think about that entire employee life cycle. And you've got the app, which is kind of working its magic and letting people know it's there. Well, you got them in first, and then now they're receiving nice things along the way. And I think Charter Hall also do a really good job in just subtly using all the tools that we give you to kind of just remind particularly things like November that we're in now.
Yeah, and we've done a couple of those campaigns in line with our wellbeing strategy. We have a number of themes that we've generated internally, or we have partnerships in terms of like whether it be a Movember or an Are You OK Day or something along those lines. And when we've had those specific campaigns, we've been able to partner with the Sonder team to either push content or come up with some level of communication that just links the two really nicely. And so that's been another way that we can do more, targeted sort of campaigns in addition to the day-to-day work. I mean, I guess a recent example as well, we've been wanting to help our team if they've been impacted by, there's obviously a lot going on in the world at the moment, and if they just need resources or just an amalgamation of where they can go and find support services. Sonder were great in providing, a really quick, easy to use article in response to that, and we spun that up within sort of 24 hours. So Those little things have really helped as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So I suppose then, as we know, a lot of HR, P&C, safety, wellbeing teams, we're naturally a busy bunch, right? So I suppose for those on the call today who might be thinking, oh, launching something like this feels ambitious. I suppose what would be your pro tip for a fast but impactful launch?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I touched on before, like obviously there's and every business is going to be different, but there's an internal piece around sort of that alignment to strategy. And I do think that actually, that's such a key thing, because that's what we found really gave us senior stakeholder buy-in. We could really clearly articulate how Sonder was aligned to our strategy and actually was going to elevate our offering. And then also a really nice link to commercial sort of people strategy around talent attraction, retention, and overall engagement. So those strategic linkages were really key. But then in terms of I guess the onboarding and then the launch of it, as I said, we've touched on it earlier, but we really enjoyed being able to work with the Sonder team to ensure that we were calling out all the great features that are available, having that really nice link to what we were trying to achieve internally in Charter Hall. And, I won't go too much into the tech side of things, but from a tech onboarding, it was actually very, very smooth and very easy. And, we touched on it earlier. We've got 600 people nationally. We're a dispersed organization, and we were actually able to launch quite seamlessly and actually really focus on the messaging and the why we're doing it, as opposed to have to focus and spend a heap of time on the operational side of it, because that was very, very smooth and easy for us. It really enabled us to elevate the offering. And then I think that's why we now, 12, 18 months on, see it as a really embedded part of our business, because we've actually been able to focus on the why of why we're doing it. And importantly, our team do view it as a benefit and actually see the value in it as well. They can understand that we're taking this stuff seriously, and we've got a great partner that's helping to bring that to life. So yeah, that's really been, I think, important to us. And that advocacy from a senior stakeholder piece has come through because we've had that really nice strategic alignment. It plays to that proactive wellbeing piece. Our business understands why wellbeing is an important thing for us to be considerate of and actively contributing to, and they can see that we've got a great partnership that's helping us, be really strong in that space. And I think in terms of from a peer perspective, it's something that we're really proud of, that we can really say this is something that we've taken seriously, and it's also materially impacted our business for the better. So they're all the things that I would sort of look to.
Awesome. And then that leads me very nicely into the last question before we dive into opening up the floor for some questions. I suppose, value back, a great elevated employee support program is one thing, but then being able to link back and speak to execs around the return on investment, we also know is pretty important too. How would you say, very quickly, Ben, how did you know that Sonder was right for you, and what would you say was able to help you demonstrate that value back?
Yeah. I mean, we have very strong and very, robust targets, I guess, in terms of our employee engagement, and how we assess how we're doing in that space. So that's obviously a key, because you do need to have some hard data behind sort of that ROI. It's not just about anecdotal, although I will touch on that shortly. So, engagement scores are obviously really key for us. We've seen a lift in our engagement. And the reason where we can draw a really nice linkage to the ROI from a wellbeing perspective is we introduce specific wellbeing, metrics and questions within our engagement, so that we could track over time how we were going specifically from specifically from a wellbeing perspective. So seeing an uplift in our wellbeing score and just our sentiment across the business in terms of, firstly, are we providing a strong environment that's aiding wellbeing, and also do our team see the initiative and the effort that we're putting in that regard, and are we actually positively impacting their wellbeing? To see that increase over the last 12 months has been really pleasing, and I think that's a testament to the investment we made with Sonder, and that also aligns with the more I guess traditional metrics of it, like our take up rate's been really strong across the business. It's continued to remain strong even post-launch too. So our new starter take-up rate continues to be really strong. So it's not just a case of we caught everyone who was there when we launched, and that's sort of what we've maintained. We've continued to get that take-up as new people have come into the business. So we're seeing both from an engagement perspective, but also an activation perspective, that really strong engagement with the platform. And then anecdotally, we do get comments about it, and then that's more from the people who previously wouldn't have needed to use an EAP. It's more from people who are, in a good spot, and we've wanted to take them to a great spot. They've made those comments around whether it's push notifications, whether they've seen a piece of content around a topic that they're interested in, or if they've had an interaction with someone on the chat service or a call, that they're the sort of anecdotal feedback that, understandably, if you're using the traditional EAP, you're probably not going to hear as much of that stuff. But when it's a more, I guess, proactive wellbeing conversation, they're more likely to share those sort of anecdotal comments with us, and we've certainly seen an uplift in that. So that's been really encouraging. And I think that to us is the key difference. We still feel that we've got the absolute traditional EAP support there through some of the mechanisms, but the part we really wanted to focus on, that proactive wellbeing, we're getting insight and feedback that we otherwise wouldn't have. So that's been really key for us.
So good to hear. And some of the questions are starting to filter through. And one of them was, what are some of the insights and the metrics that you're starting to receive from Sonder? And I think you've mentioned a few there already, Ben. The general, how many people are on it, but more importantly, what are they coming in for? And what are some of those broader themes that are coming up? Oh, there's lots of good questions. How am I going to
just on that really quick, the monthly, we get monthly and quarterly sort of insights on usage. So that's been really helpful as well. Like, obviously there's a level of privacy where we can't go into too much granularity on it, but we do get insights from Sonder on usage and also themes of subjects that our team are interacting with the platform for. So that's really useful for us, and that helps inform other initiatives we might look at.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I'm going to pick this question here because I think it's really important, and a lot of people think, oh, tech, and how's this going to sit within, our workforce, and how will people adopt to it? So the question is, Ben, you mentioned your cohort is a bit younger. Do you feel the team took to the app faster because of this? My cohort is a little bit older, wondering if the uptake would be as strong. What are your thoughts?
Look, I think possibly in some ways. I would say, though, it's a very easy journey to go on. And I think as well, whilst the digital aspect has certainly resonated with a lot of our team, there's also been that optionality where we've been able to, even if it's something as simple as sharing an article and doing that as a PDF, and there's other mechanisms and other avenues to engage with the platform that we've equally found our team have responded to. Because whilst we do have a younger demographic, we have a very diverse sort of spread across our organization as well. So I wouldn't say it's limited to that. It's a good call out. I think it's something to be aware of. It's actually something that we saw as a real benefit, because our previous EAP was literally just a phone number, and that was the only way of engagement. And so what we really liked was this actually opened up greater levels of, or channels of communication that our employees have responded to. Particularly like the chat service, I think that's been something that's been really well received. So good call out, but I would say that the offering's diverse enough that there's other channels that can be leveraged as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And for those on the call, if you do have a question that you want answered, please feel free to submit it and we will come back to you. But I think we have time to squeeze in one more. Ben, did you find it hard to change employees' expectations from a typical reactive type offering? What tips would you give for successful messaging to reinforce a change like this?
I think one of the key things was really focusing on the positivity of this offering. So rightly or wrongly, I think that there is sentiment that EAPs traditionally are there for distressing circumstances, and thus, we certainly found that for a lot of our team, there was that, more negative, I guess, connotation, not because the EAP wasn't a good service, but because of the circumstance and when it was typically used. So the opportunity that we had was to really leverage this is a positive piece. This is a proactive play. And that's where that term of taking people from a good space to a great space that's where we really sort of focused on, because it was, you might be in a really good spot, you're engaged, you're feeling well. How can we actually help you continue in that, and also help you get to a level that you may have otherwise not been considerate of. So I think reframing it to that positive kind of angle, that was really, really key for us. And as I said, that's what's also broadened out the engagement platform across our team, because we've got a lot of people that have used it because they want to understand, taking up a new fitness regime, and they want some diet tips, and they want to know how to, nutritional advice. And that was a really easy, positive sort of thing for them to go on that journey with Sonder on. So I think reframing to the positivity element is really important. Whilst you're also still reassuring people that those core kind of support services are still there. So it's not going away from that support. It's just adding that really positive element to it as well. So that was the angle that we took with it.
Yeah, great tip. What a great tip to close us out. I hope everyone has enjoyed tuning into today's webinar. We are at time, but I really hope you've taken away some gems shared by Ben. I want to thank you, Ben, for your time, your wisdom, and for helping our audience understand how you've rethought wellbeing, and to hear what's out there if they're on a similar path. I hope you can all agree that whilst rethinking wellbeing might sound intricate, there are definitely ways to achieve it. So thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, Ben, again.
No problem. Thanks, everyone.